Okay,
Yo.
musical chair time. All
Yeah.
right.
You're riding with Manny Digital and the homie KGB.
Yep.
EFN is
Handling
preoccupied right now.
business. Yep.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right.
Yep. Nothing
So
wrong with
what's
that.
so what's good, Playboy?
Well, I was thinking about what today might look like for the pod, and then it dawned on me that I woke up feeling kind of fucked up.
Like hungover fucked up?
Mentally. No, 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 no.
Oh,
Mentally.
okay.
Because I had a little incident. Me and my son got at it last night a bit. So
Oh,
just yeah, so well, I mean, it's all good. It was nothing super major, but it started making me think a little bit about like stubbornness and all kinds of different things.
mm,
And so curious your take. I mean, part of this is just venting a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
that's what we're here for, bro.
yeah. So
That's what we're here for.
yeah, and it's so the whole thing was nothing major. To sum it up, you know, my wife wasn't feeling well. She had like a chain that had a charm on it, that a couple charms that needed to be like reconfigured. Some of them were flipped around. So my son was working on doing it,
Yeah.
and he was trying to get the last one on, and to me it still looked like one of them was flipped, and it was, beginning of the domino effect with it, right? So it's like
Yeah.
if it wasn't corrected, then he would have had to start all the way again.
Right.
So I'm talking to him, and it's late. Like he's had
Everybody's
practice. Yeah,
tired.
everyone's tired. It's late, and I'm asking him like, "Hey, it still looks backwards to me. Stop for a second. Let's just take a look at it." And he's adamant that he's right. No, it's right. It's right. It's right. So he's like being super stubborn and just not like he won't even he won't stop what he's doing. And I know when you get in that flow when you want to complete something, like, but he was definitely taking it to a point of like, just he's not going to listen. He wants to get it done. And so I kept asking him, stop, let's look at it. I think, and then it was turning, and it was turning into like, I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
those type of thing. It didn't really need to go there. Um, and so he's still trying to put it on, and then all of them fall off, right? So then we don't have the opportunity to even prove who was right or who was wrong. You know?
That was karma telling you both, shut the fuck up.
Right. And and so yeah, and so we were both pissed. I'm like, yo, you pissing me off right now. Like you're not listening. Um, and we're just kind of going back and forth at it. I was right, and and I'm trying to think how I mean, it got to a point where it was like, all right, we're done, right? I'm annoyed. He's upset. We apologize eventually, right? It's all good. I'm trying to explain to him, like, yo, dude, it's not even about the I'm right, you're wrong scenario. I simply just asked for you to stop so that we could both just take a look at it. It doesn't hurt to stop and look. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe you were wrong. Who knows? But at the end of the day, we're working on something. Let's take a look at it, and just doesn't not going to hurt to stop, right?
Yeah.
And then he says he was like, yeah, I understand, but then he kept going like, but I was right, and so I was like, dude, you're missing the whole point of like, it's
Yeah.
not even about that. Again, what I'm mad at is that you won't even give the respect or entertain to stop, right? So we go through that whole thing, and it felt like we cleared it up, but then he's still upset.
Like
And
what? Like I'm right and you're not giving me my just due type of.
no, more like I wasn't we weren't quite sure. We're like, all right, well, why are you still upset? I mean, obviously we were mad at each other, but it was like, well, all right, why are you still upset? And then then it took a different turn, because it was more like, well, look, I was feeling, it was frustrating for me because I felt like I had to bow down or back down just because you're my dad. Like ultimately, it was one of those things where both of us chimed in, is like, you really need to check yourself and stop it right now. Like,
When you say both of us, you mean your wife and
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. Like, you need to stop the back and forth. You're missing the point. Like,
Mm.
and so then it was like a whole different turn, right? It earlier that day when I got him, we came home from school, he was feeling proud of himself because he was playing he was playing basketball. He took a leadership role. He felt confident. He saw like how having that confidence makes other people trust you, or you get the ball more, all that kind of stuff. There was other things at school where, like, maybe normally if someone was going to move his stuff or whatever, he would be like, yeah, whatever. But he felt like that confidence spark of telling them no, put my stuff down, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whatever those kind of things were. So, and this is something that that he's been trying to work on, or we've been talking about, just building that confidence, and it's okay to say no to things, and stand your ground and all that kind of stuff. So he was feeling that power, that feeling of
Ah,
like, I can hold my own, right?
I can push
And
back.
I can
'Cause-
push back, right?
right.
And what we were trying to explain to him when he started talking about that, like, I totally got, like, in one hand I felt bad. I'm like, oh shit, just kind of took the wind out of his sail, right?
Ah,
Because he was feeling like, here I am standing up and, trying to be
all
confident,
on my own. Yeah.
but now I have to just bow down, and because you're dad, right?
Yeah.
And what we were trying to explain to him was like, look, you should feel like you can stand up and talk and do what you got to do. Like, I don't want to take that away from you, take the power away from you. There are times where it's, hey, mom and dad say this is what what it is, and you
You
just
got to
got to
rock with
deal
it.
with it, right? But then there's also, like, then it's learning about stubbornness versus confidence.
Mm.
Like, you can be super confident, but you can still be wrong. Doesn't mean, or you can be confident, but you can still be open to opportunities to learn, right? Um, so yeah, it's just one of those things that you have to just learning that middle ground of like, and so he was confused. He's like, I'm confused. It's like,
Of course.
one minute you're telling me I got to stand up for myself, and then the next minute, like, I can't say anything, and we're like, yeah, well, it's a little different with parents, right? You got to give us respect, but at the same time, and I'm even confused with it sometimes. I'm like,
It's
all right,
yo, it's the biggest struggle because
yeah,
you're trying to empower them to have the confidence and use their words and all that stuff, right? And
yeah,
then you need to strike the balance of you gotta trust us, and you also gotta respect when we tell you something sternly, like, yo, listen to this.
right.
And those things butt heads all the time.
They do, and it's because oftentimes, if he's on like a constant debate cycle with us about something, we'll stop and be like, yo, you do that shit with your friends. Don't do it with us. Like, we like what you're doing right now. Like, we can see that you got skills and you know how to push back, but don't do it with us. Do it with your friends. Like, use it on them. That kind of thing. But then when I think about it sometimes, if we're the ones that he's most comfortable with, then are we good are we a good is home life, or parents, are we supposed to be kind of the punching bag or the training ground for some of this stuff as well, whether we like it or we not, or we don't.
Yeah. And I think the answer to that is sometimes. Because I have the same debate with myself all the time. It's like I'm trying to raise, particularly with my son, just because. Well, that's not true. Bullying happens with everybody, but I feel like guys just like go off the handles way more often than girls do,
Mm,
and so I'm more concerned about the situations that he's going to find himself in and how he reacts and what those signals he sends will translate into down the road for him. And I'm often like, there's a part of me that is similar to you where you're struggling with how do I encourage this uh debate in him particularly when he's right, or when he has a series of facts that can lead him to be right.
Right.
And for him, not for the sake of being right, but for the sake of him standing up for himself in
Right.
particular
Or
situations.
there's a high probability that he's right, right? And in
Yeah.
that instance, in our little stupid instance, like it was a high probability that yeah, maybe he was right, maybe I
Like
was right too, because I'm seeing
50-50.
I'm seeing something, he's seeing something. He did take a shot. He's like, my eyesight's better than yours. You know? It's like,
What do you say to that though? I would have given it to him. I mean, in that moment, you're pissed, so you probably would be like, "Fuck you, little kid."
I think I ignored it. I didn't
Okay,
bring it back up.
smart, smart.
I think I ignored that one.
But so we go through that all the time, me and my son and I. And what came from it, and I don't condone this, but now I laugh a little bit because oftentimes, like he would want to go hard debating something, and
Hmm.
I would challenge him or tell him, "Yo, you're thinking about it the wrong way," or "No, that's actually wrong because of this, that, and the third." And he would be so confident about proving his point that he's confidently wrong,
Yeah.
right? And so I would say all the time, "Oh, here you go, being confidently wrong again." And I would go through the process of showing him exactly. And then I noticed after doing this so many times, I'm like, what am I teaching him? I'm teaching him that when you're wrong, you're gonna get destroyed by the other person with a whole bunch of a tirade of facts and
Mm,
high tone and all this stuff that's going to be a negative feeling. And I don't call him that anymore. I don't call him confidently wrong anymore. But I try not to even engage in the debates very much. What I what I often do is just feed his curiosity. And it's a very difficult switch because immediately when something's brought up or there's something happening, and everybody who looks at that or observes that will know it's not the best way to go about whatever it is. And he opens his mouth and says something, I don't attack. I try not to attack him because that's going to do more harm than good, and it's not
right.
creating the opportunity for him to fuck up or make mistakes, and then have find a better way to communicate the lesson without having to create this adversarial sort of relationship.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because we're men. Ego is a big part of who we are. I don't care who you are. And it's like in the animal kingdom, you've got like the buck
Hmm.
against like the whatever, the fawn, I guess is what they're called, whatever. And they're kind of going at it, trying to find their place in the pack, right? It's a similar thing.
So hard to step outside of ourselves, like when we start getting in the heat of the moment. Like again, if we're going back to the idea of like, yeah, we're the training ground. It's okay. But when you start getting sucked in with like, oh, I'm getting mad now, then it's so hard to like
Yeah.
to be the training ground. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you become the opponent at
Yeah.
that point. And it's hard, but you as a parent, that's never going to be, well, maybe one day somebody's going to figure it out and be perfect at it, but it's very difficult to be perfect about that shit. So what you did about finding an opportunity to cool off enough where you guys could have a more civil conversation and there be apologies exchanged, yo, that's a good way to end the night. Because we try often, like even with situations like that, and I'm a petty motherfucker, but we try not to go to sleep upset for many reasons. But
Yeah,
just have
same here. Doesn't all, I mean, in life that won't always work, but for the most
no,
part we try. Yeah.
no. You got. I mean, we try, and it just provides that closure, so your night could be more restful potentially, and just you end on a better accord.
Yeah.
And if you could strive for that, even when you go out of bounds, like I think that's a huge dub. Because a lot of people just pretend like they sweep it under the rug like it never happened, and those are the things that mount over time, and because they're never addressed, they just sit there as little examples of shit that your parent did to you or whatever.
It's funny. I felt like, and I felt like this the moment it was happening. Like after we're both annoyed with each other. Like and this is kind of recent. Like I've had to get glasses,
Mm.
and I hardly wear them. But there are times when I need to do something more intricate that I put them on and then I can see properly. Um, and so I put on my glasses. I start putting the shit back together, and I'm still going at it with him a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you pissing me off, and like the glasses are hanging off my nose. You know what I mean? And
Grandpa.
yeah, and and it was like all of a sudden I left my body and I was looking at myself and I just felt like such an old dad, fucking cranky dickhead. I was like, who is this person?
You had an out of body experience, moment of
Yeah,
awareness.
yeah, it bothered the shit out of me today. I'm like, God, who the fuck? Like, what?
But he didn't say nothing. He didn't like take another shot
Nah, he
about it.
didn't. No, no, no. He didn't. He
Okay.
didn't take another shot. I mean, we still were going back and forth that, but it was like in the middle of this whole thing happening. I'm kind of looking at myself like, really? You know?
You're that guy now?
But also like I wasn't necessarily getting at myself for raising the issue because you know, I don't think I was necessarily wrong in my point. I just wanted to see.
Yeah, where we were, how it was going.
Yeah, and quite honestly, if I was wrong, I would have, you know, I'd have said, all right, I was wrong. You were right. No problem.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but it was the stubbornness of not. But then now afterwards, I learned, okay, well, the stubbornness is coming from because he's feeling confident and
Empowered.
powered up, and then so then most of my day to day, I've kind of felt a little shitty of like, damn man, I really hope that you know I didn't derail him
Yeah.
from carrying on with that feeling because that's a feeling that we've been really striving to bring back out of him and want him to feel. Um, so it's one of those like, you know, guilty afterthoughts of like, ah,
Yeah.
fuck, man.
Don't
You
beat
know?
don't beat yourself up too much because it sounds like you did the right repair work and atone for your part of it. So I mean, it's a natural thing, and it's easier for me to say because I'm not feeling what you're feeling right now and
Right,
haven't
but I'm sure
really
you've
gone through it.
done had similar things with.
Tons of times. I've been in your situation many times, and something from a confidence perspective and building a kid's confidence. What I've noticed, so I've been coaching my son's assistant coaching my son's CYO basketball team
Oh,
with a
okay.
friend of mine, and what I'm noticed, so I'm observing things in practice that I don't normally see because I don't normally stick around for practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to now take examples from practice and bring them back as opportunities for him to develop more confidence. And it's because I think it's human nature when if you're watching your kid play a sport, oftentimes you're going to focus on the corrections, the things that they
Right.
should be doing better,
Right.
and you give very little time to the positives. I'm still very guilty of that. But the other day, my son had a great practice, and he cares very much what I think. And he was like asking me in the car, kind of like hesitant, Dad. So how did I do today? And immediately my brain was like, it just picked up a couple of little mistakes he made,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I didn't voice that. I
That's
just was
good.
like, yo, you did well, you did this well, you did that well, all these things. And I hyped him up and I just stopped. I didn't even bring the negatives up. And I realized like I kind of knew this, but it really hit me that day where I was like, yo, if I'm able to leverage those positive moments and tone down the negative stuff, the positive is going to override the negative without me even having to address the negative. Unless it's something like crazy, right? Like every time you
Mm-hmm.
come down the court and you punch a kid in the face, like, bro, we're
Right.
not doing that.
Right.
But outside of that, like all that shit kind of weeds itself out. And what he did when he got home, he was super amped to tell his mom that I said that he had a great game. And I wasn't
So
able to
that
make
did that shock you at all?
it did. It did a little. Yeah. And I'm noticing his game is now evolving to be more confident. Like he was scared of contact for a long time. And now he's like looking for it a lot more when he's finishing at the basket. And, he's making more aggressive decisions on the basketball floor, where before he was more timid. He was still an okay player, but he was more timid. Now he's taking more like, all right, I'm gonna go do this thing. and I don't want to screw that up. Just like you said, right? Like it takes so to figure out how to get your kid the confidence they need when you find the combination of things that get you in that direction.
Yeah.
Like if you fuck that up or you derail it, like it's hard to get that back. So I'm trying to be really careful about it with, not really messing that up, but it just reminded me, you just talking about that shit reminded me of like my own kind of journey around that right now.
Hmm. It's funny how sometimes I forget how, like, talking about how hype your son was to come back and tell your wife, like,
My
the
thoughts.
praise that, yeah, the praise that you gave him. I forget sometimes how important our opinions or what we think of our kids and how we, tell them things, especially the
It's
good things, how it affects them.
and a lot of the confusion for us as parents, or lack of awareness around that, is a lot of times we, like we've talked about many times, we treat them like peers a lot because we can vibe in conversation on a lot of things kind of as peers.
Yeah.
But the impact of what we have to say, we don't give enough credence to. And I think, yeah, I think it is an important thing to be more aware of.
Or even or even the timing of it. Because I think there's a lot of times where, like, we give a lot of positive praise and try to pump them up and just in normal day-to-day flow. But some of that might get lost of in, not that I don't wanna not say it, but I think that some of that might not be as impactful, whatever, given the time. Like, maybe he's, thinking about something else, or he's itching to go play a game or something like that, right? But it's those specific times where they're really, I guess, open and wanting to hear whatever the feedback is,
But
positive
you
or negative.
but you don't know
But you never
unless
know. Like, yeah, you just don't
unless
know
they
when
come
that
out and
is.
ask for it.
Yeah.
But even sometimes when they do, you don't take that serious enough, or you may not, right? You just might, it might be a fleeting moment, like, and they might be even in a joking context, like, so how'd I do? Or they'll ask it in a different, more vague way, right? And
Yeah.
you miss the mark. So it's tough. It's paying attention. So being present, back to kind of what we always talk about, right? Like being present is more than just like putting your phone down and being in the same room. Like you really got to be active listening and processing and digesting what is being spoken and understanding all the signals so that when you decide to respond, you're giving the best possible response, taking in all those cues.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes I even think, like, back to the, well, how'd I do? Like, I'm thinking, why do you really care what I think? Because that's
Yeah.
like that's almost like an adult way of thinking of, like,
Right.
you know, sure, there's probably some people as adults that we still want to know, like, oh, how'd I do? But for the most part, we're all like, I'm doing me, and this is
Like
how I,
whatever.
yeah, it's like, whatever. I don't really want to hear the feedback.
Yeah, but
Um,
wearing our parent hat though, I think
yeah,
we what's the word? Like we make ourselves smaller when we do that, right? Because we're not giving ourselves enough credence or importance in those situations. And it's important for us to do that. We are the kings and queens of our children. Like that is more often than not, that's how they perceive us. And if we don't act in that capacity, we're doing it sends more confusion to them than and creates a lot more instability. But it's hard. Like no, a lot of people don't want to take ownership of those roles.
yeah,
Kind of just want to play the background a little bit, be like, it's okay. No, 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 I'm good. I'm not the king. I'm not the king.
right,
I'm the king.
right.
But man, what about you though? So you had a little bit of a roller coaster of emotions given the last like few hours, day or so. Um, what keeps you up at night right now outside of this recent thing as it relates to you being the best dad you can be?
Mm, hmm. It's a good, damn, I haven't really,
It's kind of deep, right?
I guess, I guess probably, I guess along these similar, I mean, that's one of them, the similar lines of like, man, especially as he's getting older and he's going to have a lot more situations to deal with, like just making sure that he feels good about himself and has that confidence and has that understand, like just to be comfortable in his own skin and knows how to navigate. And it's hard to, I find it hard to, I don't know how to teach that sometimes because it's really up to the
The
person
environment.
to do that. And I think, and I've told him this sometimes, it's like, even though, even though my dad and I have a great relationship now, and we've had one for many, many years, when I was growing up, when I was his age, whatever, he was not, I did not live with him. Like, he was not, he's on a different side of the country. So, you know, I didn't necessarily have that confident male figure telling me on a day to day, like pumping me up, right? Giving me that kind of
Confidence.
that, right? You know, my mom did it in her way, but it's coming from a different angle. And so I think both my wife and I, we try to tell him this all the time. Like, dude, like you have so much going for you. And, think about all the things that you do without fear and that a lot of quote unquote normal people or whatever would be terrified to do. I'm terrified to do. Like, just like you don't, you, once you realize like kind of how great you are and all the different things that you're able to do, like you're going to be unstoppable if you just click into it. And I tell him that sometimes, and I say like, look, man, I didn't necessarily have that kind of input being fed to me on a day to day from a male figure growing up. So, I hope you can take it in because getting it from both mom and dad, is going to help to fuel you. But again, it's like you could just, we'll just continue to say it, but it's one of those hard things to teach because you either got to feel it within you or you don't, or you got to learn the hard way or you know, go
I
through your
find
lessons.
uh, like that there's no template for that, right? There's
Yeah.
just being there, dealing with scenarios, situations, experiences that pop up, and being as, again, I'll use the word present, but also like honest in those moments, right? And so honesty from a, even from a physical perspective, right? Like, and I'll go back to sports because we share that in common with our kids. When you're watching your kid play basketball and you're sitting there on the sidelines, they're always checking for their parents.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're there on your phone not paying attention, that sends a strong message to them.
Yeah.
But if you're in the game and you're participating, whether that be like you felt empathy because they got fouled, or you got hyped when they scored a shot, or they made a mistake and you winced, but you didn't wild out. All those little things are small samples of confidence that you are evoking into them, right?
Hmm.
So it doesn't always just have to be like, yo, I'm so proud of you, which by the way is very important also, like vocalizing it. But sometimes those things get bland if it's the same message constantly and there's no real meaningful emotion behind it.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it's one thing to be like, oh man, I'm proud of you, versus, yo, I'm so proud of you because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's the thing that probably keeps me up the most of like worrying about failing him in that, like, damn, is what I'm saying getting through? And is it, will it sink in? How do I unlock the key to all of a sudden
Make a
help
breakthrough.
charge him up? And don't get me wrong, it's not like he's,
Nah,
you
he's
know,
not down in the dumps or
no,
nothing like that.
no, no,
Right.
no.
Right.
But
Right.
but I know that he can be much higher, and given like going through middle school now, and just, he's trying to figure some shit out, right?
Yeah.
So I want to just make sure that on my end that I'm providing him with hopefully what he's needing mentally,
Yeah. Yeah.
from like that male perspective.
Mine is along my biggest fear is along the same lines. Like things that keep me up around just trying to be the best father I can be. A lot of it I put on myself as far as how I carry myself because they see that through and through no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
And helping them to so our tagline basically trying not to fuck up being the best possible dad, right? And
Mm,
so in the context of how I have a conversation with them, when I joke with them, how extreme my joke might be, where it won't play the same if it was with an adult versus with the kid, right? And those missteps potentially causing traumas in them that will deflate their confidence or
right.
move them into worlds that they really shouldn't be because I didn't take it as seriously what I might have said as they needed it to be. And so I'm often like checking myself and sometimes again I'm a petty person. So I'll be in a situation where stuff might come out of my mouth that I don't fully mean. And I have to make an effort to go and apologize or explain why I did what I did and not excuse it, but really get them to understand it and course correct. And those are very trying things for me to do, but are paramount because I'm gonna make mistakes. We're gonna make we're not we're it's no way that we're not right. And helping them understand mistakes are coming from me, coming from you, coming from everyone, and the way you handle those mistakes, grow from them, learn from them is really the key to being able to be whatever you want to be, right? But don't be afraid to make those mistakes and atone for them
Yeah.
because that's the only way you're gonna go. You're never gonna be able to put yourself in a little bubble and say I'm never making a mistake. It
Right.
doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well,
All
there
right.
it is, man.
On that note, that's just nice. Thank you for the therapy.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Hopefully next week we'll be able to have the trio back together.
Hmm.
And we appreciate you, the listener, you, the viewer. Please tell a friend if you think there's a father out there that could use some of the entertainment, some of the venting that we have portrayed here, and then in general, just some good fatherhood banter. Please share at Fatherhoods Pod. That's with an S, not with a Z. POD at on Instagram, and we're also on Facebook and X. And make sure that you subscribe, listen to the audio or the video on YouTube. So long.
There it is.